Hey everybody, what's good? Dr. Q Jordan here. Hopefully all is well. And today we're gonna start something new. I hope everybody likes. We call it the Friday evening ear hustle. And basically what this is I'm gonna be talking about a couple things, medical issues that I've either heard somebody talk about while I'm in the gym, or that I've had patients talk about, and just kind of go over things, kind of get some facts in, because a lot of times with medical issues, there's a whole lot of false information going around that can be detrimental to people. All right. So first thing we want to talk about is I was in the gym listening to two fighters talking, and one was mentioning that the worst injury he ever felt was when he threw out his back. He basically said he was getting into the fight game. He started to lose some weight. So he was trying to figure out why would it be that he, after losing this weight and starting to actually be healthy for once, he would end up throwing his back out, herniating this basically. So the other guy was like, "So what did the doctor tell you?" And he was like, "Well, I didn't. The doctor said it was just my back, but I know from other people that the back can be a bad issue. So I stopped fighting." And the other dude was just like, "Dang, man." So just to go over a couple things with low back pain or a disc issue, usually the first 7 days are going to be the worst. So with a herniated disc, bulging disc, things like that, some of the product that's inside the matrix of the nucleus, the disc, called glycosaminoglycans, or GAGs for short, is going to leak out into the body. And so this is a little bit of a noxious stimulus because it's something that's not normally floating free in the body. So what happens is, when that stuff starts to float out, it can be real painful. But the thing is, that stuff, that GAG, that glycosaminoglycan, is only in your body the majority of it for about 7 days. It has a half-life of 7 days. And then after that 7 days, you only get about half of it. And then after about 14 days, it's less than that. And it just keeps on going out till there's a minuscule amount in your body. And even though this stuff is floating around in your body that not used to be floating free, it's not anything that's going to do damage to any other joint or whatnot in the body. It's just going to make it painful for a while. And so what we normally tell our patients is 7 days of rest. And what we forget to tell patients is 7 days of relative rest, not 7 days of complete you don't do anything, nothing at all, but 7 days of just rest. You take it easy. You move around, but you try not to do a whole lot, and you definitely don't kick up nothing new. And a lot of times, unfortunately, they just hear you're not supposed to do anything for 7 days. So that means somebody is laying down for 7 days. And that becomes a problem because muscles begin wasting really quick. It takes 2 weeks of no activity for you to start to really see muscle atrophy. And so that means basically you actually start to see the muscle mass of a person starting to waste away. And before you see the muscle atrophy, you start to see the other effects of immobility. So you have less range of motion, and then you're sitting there trying to force movement in something that has lost range of motion, that's lost that mobility, so it's going to be more painful. So a lot of times with those people that have had 7 days of rest or bed rest, when they do try to get up and move around again, it's painful because they've been not doing anything for 7 days. And so when you try to move around, lift and whatnot, and your body has kind of lost some of that ability to do it, it's an issue. That's why now it's called 7 days of relative rest. So you take it easy, but you still have to move around. Also, you got to understand that it's almost something like 2/3 to 3/4 of the population will have some type of low back pain. And it doesn't mean that their lives are ruined forever. Nah, it just means that, okay, they go through an experience of pain. There have been studies where complete healthy individuals have had herniated disc or bulging disc, and they didn't even know it. And it's all because they didn't have that stimulus or that activity to actually trigger the problem. So a lot of times it's not that you had that bulging disc or that herniated disc and it's causing a problem. It mightn't have been you just did some wrong or funky movement. And so when this guy was describing what he was doing, he was going for a new technique, and he was kind of bent over and twisted, and he mentioned that he lost a lot of weight. So it's not like, okay, that movement was necessarily bad. It's just that his body wasn't used to doing that movement, because when you have that kind of bigger body, that bulbous belly, it's hard to bend over. And so the position he said he was in, it was a little bit more than what his body was used to doing, especially trying to move a load. So it wasn't that it was necessarily a bad thing. He just wasn't ready for it. And he was told that, yeah, you'll never roll again. And that's an issue. So at PT school, we're taught something called red flags. Basically, these are things that if you see happen, if they present you, if somebody presents in your clinic with something like this, you do not pass go. You do not collect the $200. You send them directly to the hospital, or at least you make that phone call, be like, hey, such and such, Mary Sue over here has such and such red flags, and yeah, you need to see them. And it's not necessarily even just one. It's usually a confluence of these red flags together. But that's up to the therapist that's evaluating you's discretion. There are things such as, and I have a list right here. Unexplained weight loss. You know, that sounds like a good thing. Oh, I dropped 10 pounds. Well, yeah, if you're actually trying to lose weight or you change habits, that's great that you lost 10 pounds. More power to you. But if you're still doing the same things that you've been doing, haven't made any lifestyle changes, not even something small, and you notice that you're starting to drop weight, and you also have that back pain, yeah, that's a sign that you might need to talk to somebody, because it could be something going on with your kidneys, it could be some type of cancer or something. So if you're noticing that you're just dropping weight and you haven't made any lifestyle changes, and before I go on, remember, you haven't made any lifestyle changes, because a lot of times you can drop 10 to 15 pounds with small lifestyle changes. So if you have noticed that you're not eating fast food as much and you drop the weight, or you're not drinking sodas as much and you drop the weight, or you're walking more and you drop the weight and then you have the low back pain, most likely you're okay, because you were doing something that's helping to attribute to the weight loss. But if you're still doing the same old, and you drop 10 pounds, yeah, that's a red flag, number one. Number two, there are some patients that are on steroid use for a long time, and then there are also athletes that are on steroids for a long time for different things. And if that's the case and you start to notice the back pain, it could be something else going on, because after a while, that steroid use starts to strip away at some minerals, eat away at some things, and it can cause some metabolic problems. So that's something you want to get checked out. If you know you've been on prednisone for 3 to 4 months, or you've been taking some type of anabolic steroid for a long period of time, yes, go check it out. All right, so I have weight loss up here twice, but that's how important it is. Bowel or bladder incontinence. Basically, okay, you may use the bathroom yourself 1 time, 2 times. Maybe if you out drinking with your boys or whatnot, yeah, you might go to the bathroom on yourself. Kevin Hart does it all the time for what he says. But if this is happening on a recurring basis and there's nothing else going on, and you can't tell when you got to go number 1 or number 2, that's an issue. And if it's going on with the low back pain, yes, definitely you need to go check that out. You need to see what's going on with that. All right. IV drug use. That can be the drugs that you normally hear about with intravenous needles, or it could be the medicinal drugs, different things like that. If you're on those for a while and you start to experience the back pain, you might want to get that checked out. You want to get that checked out, I should say. Not might, get it checked out. If you have saddle anesthesia, I can't tell you how many people I've ran into in the clinic that have had the numbness in the genital and anal regions. And just like, okay, this is just something normal. No, if those areas aren't normally numb. And if you have that back pain and then you start to notice that there's numbness and tingling in that region, yes, definitely that's a red flag. Get that checked out. And then if you have loss of sphincter tone, something else, your sphincter muscles have a certain amount of strength to them, and you should be able to kind of tighten them up to hold yourself from going to the bathroom for a little bit of time. If you notice that you aren't able to do stuff like that anymore, that's an issue. And it may not be something that is treatable with physical therapy. It's most likely some other type of issue. But once again, if you have any of these issues, yes, there are red flags, and you probably need some further imaging. That unexplained weight loss, that prolonged steroid use, bowel or bladder incontinence, IV drug use, that saddle anesthesia, and loss of sphincter control. Also, if you start to notice numbness and tingling down both legs at the same time, that's another red flag that you want to get checked out. That is most likely some type of bad nerve entrapment. And yes, usually with situations like that, yeah, you want to have the surgery. Usually we try to talk our patients into trying to avoid surgery as best as possible. Let the non-invasive interventions try to work their course. But if you have something like that, yeah, most likely you might want to go in sooner rather than later. If you start to notice that your feet are starting to get a little silly, that you're starting to become more uncoordinated, that's something else that you want to check out. So those are the red flags with low back pain. And if you aren't experiencing any of these symptoms and you want to get back to rolling, you basically, once the pain has started to improve a little bit and you started to be able to move around and do stuff, you can get back to rolling. You just gotta kind of modify things. One, make sure you know how to break fall, that you're falling properly. Because I mean, a bad fall is gonna hurt anybody's back. So if you're not falling properly, that's an issue. And that could cause problems because there's frequent wear and tear. But once you know how to control that fall and try to control things a little bit better, yeah, there's no problem getting back to rolling. And it's just that you got to slowly progress back into things. All right. I hope that answered that question. Now, the next one, I've been working PRN for a home health facility for a while now. And I've always run into people younger than my mama that are severely deconditioned. And I asked them what's going on, and they say arthritis. And so I'm like, oh, so you have rheumatoid arthritis, or you have psoriatic arthritis, or something else. And no, it's just regular osteoarthritis. And it's like, so what happened that you can't do it? Oh, I was told I wasn't supposed to squat. I was told I wasn't supposed to climb stairs. I was told I wasn't supposed to lift 10 pounds. All right, so let's get this straight first. Our joints need stress, need that biomechanical force through them in multiple directions to get stronger and maintain strength. So by you not doing exercises that put stress on the joints that have arthritis, you're actually doing a disservice to those joints. You're making things worse in the long run for those joints. So, all right, so it hurts your knees when you squat. Okay, so does it hurt your knees when you squat to 90, or does it start to hurt when you squat a little to 45? That's one of the things you need to figure out first, because some people with the knee arthritis can squat to 45 without problems. Maybe you can only go to about 30 degrees, but squatting is going to be good for those joints. And the more you start to squat, the more you'll start to notice that your knees don't hurt as much. And I'm not talking about doing 100 squats just right off the bat right now. No, you start with a comfortable depth and then a comfortable rep amount. For you, it might be 2 to 3, or it may be 10 to 12. But you start with that, and that's your starting point. You do that once, twice, maybe 3 times a day. You may need to take a day or two off in between. That's okay. But you start there, and then you go on. And think about it too. You say you said that you weren't told to squat, that they told you not to squat. But how do you go to the toilet? In order to sit down on the toilet, you have to squat. No matter how elevated your toilet is, you got to squat down, especially if you're going number 2. It's not going to come out really if you're standing up. So you're still squatting. You're just not squatting that deep. So, and that's fine. You just work on that squat. So you find out how low you can go comfortably and how many times. You don't have to do 100 squats a day. If you just do 2, 10, 5, whatever's comfortable with you. And then in 2 weeks, see if you can do more and go from there. And a little bit of pain is okay. A little bit of pain actually is going to help the growing process. Another thing, you have knee arthritis or you have arthritis in your hip, so you shouldn't do stairs. Once again, stairs promote a lot of weight bearing in the joint. So, okay, maybe for you right now, it's not a flight of stairs. It might just be 2 steps, but you just go up and down those 2 steps. Good. 1, 2, down, down, up, 2, down, down. And you just keep going like that. Maybe it's 2 steps at a time to start with the first 2 weeks, and then you can do 4. Or maybe you can do 1 flight of steps. Good. And then relax. And then every week, every 2 weeks, you progress. And you may not be able to do it every day. Like I said, a lot of people starting off make the mistake of trying to do too much too soon. So you just maybe 1 day on, 1 day off, 1 day on, 1 day off, or maybe 1 day on, 2 days off, 1 day on, 2 days off. You have to figure out what's best for your body, but that's still putting weight through those joints to make you stronger. Remember, 2 weeks is all it takes to start to see atrophy. It's all it takes to start to see weakness start to creep in those joints. That's why when people are in the hospital, they have to try to hurry up and get them up soon, because the longer somebody stays in the hospital without getting up and getting out that bed, the weaker they become. So 1 week, 2 weeks down that line, somebody that was walking in has to be wheeled out because they didn't get up and walk around that whole time. They were kept in bed. So yes, squatting and stairs are good for arthritis, especially in your knees and hips. And yes, you may only be able to do a few to start with, but that's fine. We all have to start somewhere. Arthritis in the back, you're not supposed to lift more than 10 pounds. Again, that's just most likely for that initial couple of days until the symptoms start to calm down. You need to put stress into those joints. And the way to put weight into put stress onto your back is to carry things, to lift things. Okay, maybe it's 10 pounds right now. In 2 weeks, you should try to lift 12, and then in 3 to 4 weeks, you should try to lift 15. But you have to put weight onto those joints for them to get better. You can't just lift 10 pounds. 10 pounds is a gallon of milk. I have patients who were mothers and newborn babies who were told that they could not lift their baby because their baby was more than 10 pounds. How do you tell a mother of a baby that she can't lift her baby? And I would see these women, and they would be in all types of mental distress and feeling like they weren't a good mother because they were told that they couldn't pick up their child, and they did not pick up their child. And I understand Yeah, the first few times that you do it, it's going to hurt. If you try to do it too quickly, or you do it at a forky angle that your body's not ready to tolerate, yes, it's going to hurt. And so that's one of the things you work on in therapy. That's one of the things you should work on in therapy, is being able to move and lift safely in different directions, so that you don't have to worry about, oh, I can't lift up my baby. It's because there's going to come a time where you need to pick up that child. So once again, putting weight and stress through the joints, especially of arthritic joints, is a good thing. Yeah, you can't do 100 pounds to start with, but you do put some weight in, and then you slowly progress. The more active you get on those knees, the better. I've run into people that told me that they had to they had to stop doing things with because their arthritis in their knees or their hips was so bad that they were going to end up in a wheelchair, and that's not true. As long as you stay active and you do the right things, most people do better. Most people get well. Now, a lot of times, from my experience and from the people I've talked to in the nursing homes and going into their homes and them coming to the clinics, the ones that did end up in wheelchairs or in bed bound were the ones who just stopped doing everything. The ones who felt like they worked their time and they weren't going to do anything, so they just sat in the house all day. And yes, that starts to reduce strength in your joints, strength in your muscles. And so eventually, yeah, you will be needing that wheelchair or you will be bedbound. The ones that do better are the ones that stay active. I will never forget. I was working in a nursing home one time, and there's this lady, didn't realize how old she was. Come to find out, she was 94 years old. Every event that a dance, exercise class, whatever, she was on it. She was doing it. I mean, she was going to town getting it. And she was walking around. She had a walker, but I mean, she was flying. She mainly walked that walker. Then there was another lady who was in a wheelchair, and I thought for sure this lady was a good 85. Speak to her one day. We normally talk. And so one day I asked her how old she was, and she told me her age, and I about fell out my chair. She was a year younger than my mama. And so okay, so what happened that you're in a wheelchair? And she was like, oh, they told me I had arthritis. And it's like, oh, they said you have rheumatoid arthritis or such and such arthritis, or there was some type of metabolic issue. She's like, no, they just said I had arthritis. And I said, so what happened then? She's like, oh, things started to hurt, so I just stopped doing them. And I said, walking started to hurt, so I stopped walking. And this and this started to hurt, and I just stopped. And I was like, really, man? And it just kind of blew my mind. She was a year younger than my mama. And let me tell you, Ann Jordan is wild. Ann Jordan keeps my baby K3, and they're on the floor rolling around. They're dancing all over the place. They're playing Wii games. They're moving all over the place. And my mama told me, she's like, the more I move around and stay active with them, the better my body feels. It's when I don't do anything for a few days, it's that the pain and stiffness I have starts to get a little bit worse and more noticeable. She's like, I still notice it when it's cold and stuff like that, but I just start moving it and it feels better. And just thinking about that 94-year-old lady, my mama, and then this other lady who was a year younger than my mama. And okay, they all had the diagnosis of arthritis, and seeing the difference in the lifestyle and what happened to them, it just amazed me. And it just kind of brought home something that I really never paid attention to. And so just want to make sure I shared that with you. Is if you got that diagnosis of arthritis, it's not a death sentence unless you allow it to be. You can still move around. You can still squat. You can still climb stairs. You can still lift weights. You can still run. I mean, you need to make sure you do things properly and make sure that you're paying attention to what you're doing, but you can still do it. You can still lead a life. Arthritis is not a death sentence. But for some reason, so many people are told that they have arthritis and so they can't do it. And it's usually, well, my auntie or my Uncle Buck, Uncle Nip Nip, Aunt Cheryl had arthritis, and so they ended up in a wheelchair. So I had the arthritis too, and so I'm gonna end up in a wheelchair. And just because it happened to Aunt Cheryl or Aunt Betty or whoever, it doesn't mean it has to be the same thing for you. So you need to get that thought out your head. All right, y'all. This is Dr. Q Jordan. It's been the Ear Hustle. So just let me know in the comments what you want me to talk about next time, if there's anything you would like to learn about a little bit. All right, y'all. Y'all have a blessed day.